What is going on, Nuggets Nation NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Arts. We do have some things to talk about here. Nothing too massive, really, to cover. So I do want to give you guys some things I've been reading up on, some things I've been thinking about, and just some updates throughout the day. So the first thing I want to cover is the approach to the regular season. Now, obviously, I don't think Denver's going to tank at all. I think that they're obviously going to make a push for a championship. No duh, right? But I am interested to see how they do approach this regular season with the depth that they have and the new coaching staff and the new management. So I mean, since 2022, Denver's been a top 4 seed every single year. We've seen that the last 3 years straight. They were, I believe, the 6th seed 21-22 season. Obviously, there were some injuries being dealt with, and there continues to be injuries being dealt with. Obviously, MPJ this past year in the playoffs, at least, Jamal throughout the season. But they have the depth that we haven't ever seen this Nuggets team have. So I'm wondering if the approach to the regular season is attempt to get everybody on the floor. Now, do I think that means starting Zeke Naji and giving Zeke Naji 10 minutes consistently? No, but I do think there's going to be a lot of experimental basketball this year with David Adelman and the coaching staff, seeing how they are able to work this team out. Maybe guys are going to be starting games that, maybe we don't see the exact same starting five majority of the season. Maybe we see some guys get minutes certain games and some guys not get minutes. I think that there's going to be more rotation in the lineups. Maybe we see different starting fives here and there. So I think that there's going to be more testing rather than them throwing this like they've done the last 2 years because of their depth, where they just throw the same five out there and they hope that that five could get it done, and then they're worn out by the postseason. I do think that we'll see starting fives with Bruce in them. I think we'll see starting fives with Timmy in them. I think that there's a chance that Jokic may miss more games than he has because he actually has a competent backup that either the wear and tear or him just getting a breather when they need one, especially if they're on a stretch of like 3 games, 4 games in a row. So I am interested to see how they go about it. I think they will attempt to finally make another push at the number 1 seed, strictly because they haven't had the firepower to do that off the bench. Teams like the Thunder have been outplaying them off the bench. So I do think that this is one of the first years that we've seen in at least the last 2 years where they do go ahead, or at least last year, because 2 years ago, I believe they're the 2 seed under the Thunder. So I do think that they make the official push at the number 1 seed with the depth. And I also think we see a lot of experimental lineups, a lot of experimental defensive zones, and different sets that they are going to run. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the depth, and that's something that we continue to talk about because there's not much to talk about right now with the news going on, so I am trying to get you guys some episodes and some content out just to give you guys something to listen to for the day, and that is Charles Barkley and what he had said about his free agency take. And that was that the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets were the 2 best teams when it came to free agency this year. Now, something I'm going to get into next episode is ESPN's power rankings. They did drop, and I've covered some power rankings before. Now, I think Bleacher Report had their power rankings, and Denver was low, and the Rockets were low. I think that those are, if you're looking at the potential lineups, and I know everybody says the Thunder because they're the team to dethrone right now, but I don't think their team is as good as the Nuggets roster right now and as good as the Rockets roster right now. Like I've said, I think the Rockets are the number 1 team in the NBA this upcoming year if everybody on their team stays healthy. They have the versatility to run great defensive lineups. They have a primary scorer, which was the one thing that they were lacking in Kevin Durant now, and they're an overall good team. Sengun's an all-star. Now, Denver has 1 All-Star. They have 2. That doesn't mean much to me because All-Star is fan voting, but I do think that Charles Barkley's right. Those are the 2 best teams when it comes to free agency pickups. I do think the Clippers are there, and if you're going to look at Eastern Conference teams, when it comes to signings, I do think that the Knicks are up there. I think that Yabu and Clarkson are 2 amazing signings for the Knicks. So I do agree with Chuck. I think that the 2 Western Conference teams now to mess with are the Nuggets and the Rockets. Maybe they're not the 1 and 2 seed, but those are the 2 teams I think you should mess with. Now, when it comes to free agency pickups and people who are free agents and trades, we do have another Nikola Vucevic update, and that is from KCJ Hoops on X, and I believe Legion Hoops posted it as well. It does seem that there is going to be no buyout for Nikola, and I mean, it doesn't play too much of a factor into Denver. I think that if they did want to go get a third string rotational big man at center, it could be Boucher. I know that people don't like Boucher too much. It could still be Bol if they go ahead and want to sign him. Al Horford is still unsigned, and I know that the Kuminga deal is holding up the Warriors for Horford if he does want to go there. But there are still options for Denver to go out and get other centers if they do want a center. Like I said, they may keep that spot open to see what happens in the beginning of the season. Maybe they're going to look at the point guard to split some time with Jalen Pickett. Maybe they're going to look at more wing help. You could, in my opinion, when it comes to the NBA, you can never have enough wing help. Realistically, if you have a backup point guard that could play, a backup center that could play, and anybody, even if they're bigger, to play the 2 through 4, you are in a good position because guys like that could guard everybody, score from the outside, can help you play a bigger lineup in the NBA. You now have an advantage over everybody. You look at the Celtics 2 years ago when they won the finals. They had a bigger lineup. Drew Holiday is a bigger point guard. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Jason Tatum, and when I guess when you say bigger, Tatum at power forward, but it was a lot of wing help. You look at the Knicks this past year, OG, Hart, McHale, Cat, I guess isn't a wing technically, but OG, Hart, McHale, those lineups are good because you're versatile and you have the option to go ahead and guard anybody. The main team that if you look at realistically, I mean the Thunder are like that a little bit with J-Dub, Wiggins, Lou Dort, Caruso, guys like that. The main team, in my opinion, was the Clippers. Batum was there. Derrick Jones Jr. was there. A guy who's still on the free agency market, Amir Coffey was there. So I think that if Denver wants to go out and get a guy like Amir Coffey as your last roster spot with just wing help, who could shoot a little bit, who can play defense, that's why I would have loved Josh Okogie, because I think that he would have made a difference for Denver when it came to both sides of the ball. Maybe he's not the greatest defender in the world, but at the same time, he can go ahead and play the 1 through 4 defensively. Another guy, Cody Martin, who's on the market. If you have guys like that lined up as your third string lineup, I think you're in a good position. A guy like Bruce Brown is like that, even though Bruce Brown's a little bit smaller. This last topic I want to cover is something that doesn't really have to do with anything free agency-wise. It was DeMarcus Cousins on a podcast talking about Nikola Jokic. Now, I don't know why. I feel like I could be completely wrong. Maybe DeMarcus Cousins made a comment about Jokic recently, maybe saying he wasn't the best or he's not the top player in the NBA, something along those lines. Now he's saying that when he was in Denver, Nikola Jokic said that he was going to retire when his contract was up. I'm not reading too much into it because I don't know how much I really believe DeMarcus Cousins. I think that he might just be saying it to stay in the limelight and still have the lights on him and have something to talk about. And people are now going to talk about it. And of course, it's brought up all day today when I was reading into everything. It was just, DeMarcus Cousins talks on Jokic. DeMarcus Cousins said this about Jokic. Was Jokic going to retire? And it's funny to read into it because I think that Boogie might just be saying it for content and for some clicks. But that is all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. I will have another episode out for you guys tomorrow, so stay tuned. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys want me to cover anything or want to ask me any questions to bring back any of those segments, please do so below, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.